Hello guys and welcome back to the channel. I am Captain Kosa and today we're going to be going over my favorite guns in the game, which are ARs, most versatile guns in the game. So we're gonna be talking about what ARs are the best. We're gonna be rating both the event weapons, the weapons you can get out the collection book, and we're gonna see what pros and cons, what the pros and cons of every weapon is. So yeah, let's just jump right into it. It's a top 5 list, but it's hard to make a top 5 list on assault rifles because there are so many great ones. So I have a top 5 list, but I'm gonna be making some honorable mentions and tell you why they didn't make the cut. And the thing about assault rifles is that the best ones just deal an insane amount of damage. So the ones that didn't make it to the list is the typewriter, just because you can't make it do as much damage as some of the other guns, and it's also a submachine gun, which are mostly used in close range, and then it's going to be competing with some of the other ones like Bobcat and Silent Spectre, and it doesn't quite reach that tier of damage. And you have the bundle boss, which is an insane when it comes to damage. It deals a lot of damage, but reason being for not putting this in the top is because it fires in bursts of 8 bullets, and 8 bullets is way too much to take out on normal husks. And if you have a smasher in your face, you probably want some more consistent DPS than just 8 bursts, then wait, then 8 bursts, then wait, then 8 bursts. So I mean, on medium or at medium range or in close range versus smashers, blasters, husky husks, it's a really good weapon. The reason it didn't make it to the list is because it's not versatile enough for me to use. But I know some other guys that likes to use this, and it's by no means a bad weapon. It has insanely high DPS, so yeah, I would use this weapon if you like it, but the way it fires just makes me don't like it that much. And then you have another weapon that I don't really like, but I know a lot of other people like, and we're going to be going, I think it was the Buster military weapon and the Tiger, this one. Reason I don't like it is basically because you have to fire through a scope, which makes it so you have to stand quite still, and yeah, basically I don't like firing through scope because it makes me lose my overlook of the situation. So that is why this didn't make it to the list. And we have one more honorable mention before we are going to start the top 5 list, and that is the Siegebreaker, best all-around weapon, or one of the best all-around weapons. You can't really go wrong with a Siegebreaker. Deals a lot of damage and at every range, so it's like, it's nothing bad about it. It's just the weapons I've put on my top 5 list is just weapons that deal more damage than the Siegebreaker, but it's a good all-around weapon. You can use it in almost any situation and it will be quite good. So if you can't get any of the other weapons, I would go for this one. I have one Siegebreaker 130 water, all maxed out. Yeah, so it's the reason I went double damage instead of crit rating, crit damage is because mostly just pull this up if I am facing a boss that's fire, and then I can just slay the boss pretty fast. And I want to be able to use it with every outlander or ability hero, so with no buffs to anything, to like crit rating, I would just be able to use it. So, and also if the boss is a smasher and it charges and it's in front of you and you can only shoot the back, the damage is still gonna count, while headshots or crit, it's not that short thing, as just damage. So that's why I went damage with this AR. Yeah, so that's the honorable mentions. Then we're gonna start with top 5, and coming in at top 5 we have the Grave Digger, the all famous Grave Digger. Why is this better than the Siege Breaker? We're gonna use the Siege Breaker as like the middle ground, and we're gonna talk about what's better and what's worse. And the Grave Digger is basically a Siege Breaker. It's pretty similar. What is better about it is that it has the ability to go crit rating, crit damage, and damage to afflict the target. So it has 5 damage buffs, while the Siege Breaker has a magazine size that you have to put on it. So that's why the Siege Breaker is a better weapon than the Siege Breaker. And why it didn't make it higher is basically because the other weapons deal way more damage. So okay, so here you have the Siege Breaker, the Grave Digger, with 30% crit rating and 30% crit damage. So they could be 30% damage. If we add 60% damage, you have to deduct 30 and then add 90. So deducting 30 would be like right below 60, and then adding a 90 would be around yeah, let's just say 90. Around 120 DPS. But we're going to go to third place on the list. You find the Bobcat with fire rate, damage, element damage, and it doesn't even take into account this 45% damage. So yeah, the Gravedigger and the Siege Breaker has more like a bigger range. They have a range of 4,000, and I think the Grave has, okay, that's the same, but this only has 3,500. It's meant to be used up close, but with the damage of 164k, it's just insane. So yeah, using this, I mostly just pull it out when I'm fighting like a boss or a smasher of water element, and it pretty much just slays the smasher using 1/4 or maybe half the magazine. It's yeah, it just takes him out straight away. And then you have for the bosses, it's going to be really fast as well. So yeah, as you can see, I have 3 like 130s, different assault rifles with 1 element each, just to take out the different bosses mostly, or smashers that's getting too close. So yeah, in second place we have the Silent Spectre. So it has less DPS than the Bobcat, and I have actually made some mistakes while perking this up because I should have crit rating and crit damage, because the Silent Spectre is base 20% crit chance and crit damage is 75%. So yeah, you would be able to get a lot higher. It's like almost 50% crit chance, and crit damage would be 210. So yeah, if you do that, it's going to be a really good weapon, and it's actually gonna beat the Bobcat in terms of DPS. But as I spec mine right now, it's worse than the Bobcat, but I know I can spec it around. I have tried some with crit rating, crit damage, and I also have another one that I'm about to level up here, where I'm gonna go crit rating and crit damage. So I'm gonna have two of them. I'm gonna make this one physical to take out physical bosses, so I can take them out as fast as possible. So yeah, this gun has probably the second highest DPS in the game after Founders Revolt. But if you don't count the Founders Revolt bullet chain, this is the gun in the game with the highest DPS. So would definitely recommend it. And then in second place we have the almighty, where are you, there, Wraith. Here I did the correct thing. I went critical rating and crit damage. So if we go and look at the stats, we have 48% crit chance and 345% crit damage. So basically you have to divide this by 2, making it like 172.5. So you have to take this damage, then stack it up with 100%, and then you have the over 70% extra damage. So it's going to be doing like 100 and 100 and maybe 140k DPS, which is lower than the Bobcat, but it has a range of 5100 and this has a range of 3584. So it has a lot longer range. You can use it in much more situation. That is why I have this at 106, because I use it in a lot of different situations, and when they get close I switch to the Bobcat. So yeah, and that is how I do it. Great gun, absolutely love it. The only bad thing about this gun that did make me not want to put it as number 1 is that the bullet spread is getting quite big when you move around. So you have to aim down sights when you're firing on your target. So if you were just standing still and you didn't want to move, this would be the best gun. But if you're going to be moving around doing different stuff, I would have the gun that is my number 1. And also the 6 perk, getting 5 headshots in a row, increases range weapon damage plus 30% for 10 seconds. It's one of the worst 6 perks in the game, and it's one of the hardest one. It's the hardest one to get. So you're basically gonna get it quite rarely. But yeah, just based on the 20% base crit chance and being able to add crit rating, crit damage, it just makes this gun so good. It's really taking out a lot of husks. So yeah, and for the number 1 spot we have the Hunter Killer, and I don't see that many people using the Hunter Killer, and I'm gonna talk about why it's good and why it's bad. So first, why is it not that many people that use it? I would basically guess because what it seems like in the game is like somebody talks about what weapons are good, some of the popular YouTubers, and then just everyone is applying it. And I see higher level people use the lower level people see higher level people using it, and they just start using the same guns. So that might be one reason. And the other reason I think is because it's semi-automatic, so you have to actually press your mouse button every time you're going to be firing it, and that can hurt your finger if you're doing it a lot. So yeah, you would be able to first of all maintain a firing speed of 7 bullets per second, so hitting your mouse 7 times per second. It's not that hard. Normal person could quite easily do it. But the thing is, you want to be playing assault rifles with urban assault or some other hero that's giving you 50% increase firing speed. So then we're talking about 11 times per second, and that is not as normal. I think normal is around 8 or 9 times per second, and then it starts to increase. At least you have to click it very fast, and you're not only clicking your mouse, you're also moving it around trying to hit stuff. So yeah, you have to try out this. Just find a click test on the internet and see if you're able to keep up with the firing speed, because you want to be able to fire 11 bullets per second. And the thing is, this gun is just amazing. It has a lot of damage per bullet. It has a good firing speed, which makes it a good DPS. And the reason why this is speeding out the rate is actually because you're able to move quite easily around with this weapon and shoot at the same time. So you can move and shoot, and it's much easier than with the Wraith. This the bloom to the hunter killer is not going to be as large. So yeah, that is why it's so good. You can run this in every way as well. You can go damage with it, which is what I like, because I can use it no matter if I'm not facing the smasher and stuff like that. You could also run it for the maximum DPS. You could run double headshot, but that you would only get the maximum DPS if you're only hitting headshots, and most people don't do that. So you could have more DPS with crit rating, crit damage, but I just like going straight out damage, because I don't like going for what's it called, the birthday brigadier Ramirez, or like some hero that buffs your critical damage, because the critical damage is not that high in the beginning, so you have to have a hero to buff it. And if you're gonna be running a reclaimer, for example, you just want an energy weapon with double damage. I'm not running energy, so I'm using a Master Grenadier for 24% increased damage. So yeah. So just a little bit about assault rifles and how I run mine. I use a Founder's Drumroll as my fire weapon. I have actually forgot to mention this. This should be one of the honorable mentions. But yeah, the reason why it's not on the top of the, like in the top 5 list, is just it uses a lot of bullets, and it's not as tight as a lot of the other guns, so you have to be quite close. So it's more like a submachine gun with a big magazine, and it doesn't have the damage of the Bobcat or Side Inspector. So yeah, but I run this one as fire. I run my Hunter Killer as water, and I run my Wraith as nature. Here we go. So this is what I'm using in most missions, and then I have another one if a thing goes bad and I need to take out something fast. I have the Bobcat for nature, I have the Silent Spectre for fire, and I have the Siege Breaker for water. So yeah, that's how I run my assault rifles. I've spent most of my reperk and perk ups on my assault rifles. Those are the guns I use the most. I love them, and also a lot of them are good. So yeah, that is my top 5 list and a little bit about my thoughts around assault rifles. Last weapon video for ranking. Next we're going to be taking probably taking a look at either the heroes or something like that. But yeah, that is it for today. Thank you for watching. I am Captain Kosa, and goodbye.